All right, welcome back to the program. Hamzat Lawal, the founder of Code Connected Development, the founder and the chief executive of Self Code, is here with me. Hello, Hamzat, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Nancy.
Where do we begin? How ready are you for the 2023 elections? How ready are you as a social activist? How ready are you as a voter? I think I'm more interested in that.
You know, like I always say, I'm born ready. And I'm ready as a voter because I have my permanent voter's card. You know, interestingly,
Oh,
I
you've
moved.
collected?
I have.
Okay.
I actually moved. I've always had a permanent voter's card. But
yeah.
I moved my voting point to another one. And it's ready and I've collected. And, you know.
Did you move closer to where you reside?
No, so I moved to my village.
Okay, so you will
I want to cast my ballot in my hometown, observe the election in my hometown, and then come to our situation room in Abuja and continue to engage our partners.
Do you think, as ready as you are, that the young people of today are ready for the elections? And let me take a look. I don't know if we have the statistics there, according to INEC, which is so startling. You know, that from the data, of course, the data tells a story that young people are ready as we speak. I'm trying to find the data very quickly. We do know that about 35.9% of Nigerians that registered that hopefully would vote between the ages of 18 and 34. So 33.4 million people. In fact, the data that we're seeing, about 37 million young people between the ages of 18 and 34 account for 39%. Then if you take a look at the middle-aged people, ages 35 to 49, they account for 35.7%. If you 39 plus 35 is how many? 74. That's about 75% of the vote. When I saw these numbers from INEC, those numbers told me a story. I don't want to. What kind of story did it tell you? Did you see? Yes.
It told me that the future of this great country is in our hands as young people. And you know, it also tells that dynamics around being young and being a youth. You know, politically speaking, you know, politicians see youth as 50, you know, 35, to, you know, 18 to 50. So it means that this block of people would decide the fate of this great country. But when you also disaggregate the data and look at gender, Nancy, it is the youth and the women that would decide. And most importantly, this time, we have data around people with disability. And you cannot, you know, throw away that number. And I'm really excited. And when you talk about being prepared, the Nigerian people are prepared and they're optimistic. If you look at the new people that got into the register, it tells you a story that, oh, truly, people are now understanding the power of the ballot. And I think this is also a vote of confidence to INEC. You know, because INEC have never enjoyed this public support and perception. Because when you go on the street, everyone comments INEC. And I think because also INEC have now integrated technology with the beavers and how they're able to authenticate and accredit people and how they're able to also transmit this result. Working with political party, working with civil society, and most importantly, having the media as one of their concrete partners. And for me, it tells that story that truly Nigeria is getting there.
How significant is this 2023 elections, or is it just one of those elections that Nigerians would express uncomfortability, would express, you know, they are not happy, like we saw in 2015? We saw like also an uproar against the then ruling government of President Jonathan. If you just oppose 2015 and 2019, what do you think will change?
Now we're in a transition phase where President Muhammadu Buhari is leaving. And you know, now, again, because President Muhammadu Buhari is leaving, and because also we have a 2022 Electoral Act in place, it means that there's a lot of uncertainty. Yes, in 2015, there was protest votes because a lot of people are tired. But you see, as we go into 2023, next month, people are better informed and aware. And if you look at the debates, Nancy, the debates have never been this good, where people are calling for presidential candidate and say, even people within the party structure are saying, we need to hear from you. So it's not about the party. Yes, the party have given us candidates, but we're saying, let's look at the people. Let's look at the antecedent. Let's look at their track record. Let's look at their character, their capacity. Who are around them? How are they engaging in gender mainstreaming? what are their perception and what are their thoughts around the role of youth in politics and governance. So, Nancy, yes, people are angry because when you look at inflation, when you look at unemployment rates, when you also look at the crisis, you know, you roll out the data around the energy crisis and the food crisis. Are these candidates looking at them as opportunities? Yes, there's a crisis, but we need someone who can turn that crisis into opportunity, make Nigeria a household name in the global economy. How can we make more for its reserve? So it is different because now you have some of these front runners, like you call them, and their messaging are now relating to people more closer. And that's why you see, if you sit down with all these politicians, no one can really beat their chest and say, you know, we're going to deliver votes, we're going to deliver these candidates. And when you look at the electoral law and how they demystify how governors can control, you know, before now, governors will say, I'll deliver my state. No governor can beat his or her chest and say they can deliver their state. Also, when you look at gubernatorial election, for the first time, hopefully, maybe we might have the first female elected governorship candidate, you know, that's from the northeast in Adamawa State. So for me and a lot of people out there, it's really exciting. And a lot of young people are engaged. And they're not only engaging on social media. See, Nancy, during the festive period, that's Christmas and New Year, I traveled across Nigeria. I saw where age grade group, for the first time, you know, during festive, they talk about kids, they talk about their business and what they've been up to. Everyone was discussing politics. Everyone was talking about who should become the next president of Nigeria. And I'm really excited that, yes, as much as some politicians and mischief makers are trying to make it about religion and ethnicity and region, a lot of people have demystified it and say, no, it's not about religion, it's not about ethnicity or region. Let's look at these people. Let's look at what they're promising us to do, and let's look at how they will do it. And I think, for once, people just want honest people who would say, see, I'm your president, but I'm facing challenge, and can come to Nigerians and say, these are my challenges, and how can we work together to overcome this challenge? And if we get a president that can be trustworthy, because right now there is no trust, and that's why government policies fail most time, because there's no trust. Because the policy is about campaign. And if the people do not accept your campaign, then it would not be successful. And again, I think one thing that would also work, because you see, money politics have played hand in 2015, in 2019, sadly, but as we go into 2023, yes, the political party primaries, money played hand. We saw where money exchanged hands during their convention. But as we go into the election, and one policy the Central Bank of Nigeria have done, and I think this would inform Emefiele's legacy, is the fact that we're now truly going to, we're now truly going to cashless economy, where we want to see money trail from account to account, where we don't have to do trader money or market money or conditional cash payment with cash, where it will move from one account to another. And the good thing is we've tied accounts to BVN and now tying it to NIMS. So what this means is money cannot play hand, or it will be really hard for monies to play hand as we go into this election, because a lot of politicians want to make it transactional. They want to buy votes and get electorate to sell their votes. But because of this redesign of the Naira and the fact that, you know, Mr. President have supported this policy, I think it will also inform what becomes of Buhari's legacy and what becomes of our fiscal economy and fiscal policy in the country. Because if we get it right, and I think we're in that pathway to getting it right, where money will not play hand, and where anti-corruption agencies can really look at, you know, how money is moving from one account to the other, and that, you know, that cap on how much you can withdraw as an individual and as a corporate entity.
You've said a lot of things, so let me begin to pick holes in all of them and begin to raise, you know, follow-up questions. The first thing really for me from what you said is what kind of leader do you think Nigeria deserves at this time? 18 presidential candidates?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of leader do you think that will put Nigeria on the path of recovery? I'm so insistent of recovery because I really don't also want to inflate the hopes of Nigerians in the sense that whosoever the next leader is going to be, trust me, is going to be a Herculean
it will be challenging
task.
Oh, yes.
Things may even get worse.
Before they get better.
Like the balance in social media, what is getting worse or something, if I need to use that, in terms of things may actually get worse before they get better. So what kind of leader do you think that Nigeria needs at this point?
I think first, we need a leader that can unite us. You know, we've never been this divided, Nancy. And let's tell ourselves the truth. You know, we need a leader who will draw inspiration from, who we see the leader as a nationalist, someone who you say, and who will be proud to say, you know, I might be from this region or I might worship from this religion, but first, I'm a human and I'm a Nigerian. So we need a leader who can unite us, and we need a leader who can identify competence, someone who has good character, someone who, you know, you can track their record, you can look back and look at the antecedents, who are around them, who are their friends, what are their values, what are the values of their family,
Do you think
what
that
are the names that is, see, because
do
Nancy,
you think that these qualities which you've talked about, or these virtues, do you think they will really play a role in this election?
I think so.
As Nigerians go to the polls and begin to, you know, search the personalities of these people, do you think that this will really play a role?
Yes, it will. Nancy, if you look at the poll by ANAP Foundation, where they looked at who are the leading, they took samples across Nigeria and looked at some of these leading candidates and what people think about them. If you look at the numbers, for me, what was catching was the fact that we have high number of undecided voters, and that was in November, December. So up till this moment, there's still people who are yet to decide. And you know, I've been on the field and I have people on the field collecting data. A lot of people are still undecided because they're still looking at what are the character of these candidates, what are the antecedents, you know, what are their values, do they have capacity, can they mobilize resources? Because right now, it's not about managing our diverse human capital resources or natural resources. It's about mobilizing resources. And the world is currently in crisis. You know, who can go to world leaders and they would listen? They will not only listen, but they will follow that person. You know, Muhammadu Buhari, President Muhammadu Buhari, enjoying that in the early stage of his presidency, yes. You know, where the entire world wanted, you know, wanted to support Nigeria through him. So we need a leader that would unite Nigeria, but also mobilize resources across the world and ensure that these resources change the lives of Nigeria. So for me, when you look at ANAP Foundation poll and what would become of the outcome of the election next month, there's so many people that have not decided yet, and they're still trying to inform their decision based on the data and how these candidates are engaging. Now, you know, and I think it's an opportunity for all these candidates, particularly the leading ones or the big names, to truly engage.
Now, do you think, what do you think will really be the deciders, apart from what you've said, in terms of who is the person that I will vote for that will put this country on the path of recovery, then growth? What do you think will be the deciders? I mentioned at the beginning of the program, it was Bill Clinton's, one of his aides at that time, that did say the economy is stupid. If you take a look at the U.S. elections, really, the deciding factor for really U.S. elections is really that about economy.
Okay.
How
whether
much,
yes,
inflation rate.
And
yes,
wages.
Yes, and all of
job
that.
Creation.
Job creation and all. They don't joke with those numbers.
They don't, yes.
Do you think that we've come to that level whereby Nigerians are taking a look at the macroeconomic numbers? Forget my English. What I mean are all these basic things like inflation, unemployment, poverty. Those are the things that I mean. So don't get jolted by too much English. Inflation, poverty. The World Bank did say in December, at the launch of the December 2022 updates, which it titled Nigeria's Choice. In fact, after the lead economist that presents the report, Alex Sinat, I was really, I was a bit disillusioned with the fact that, more people have been plunged into poverty, 5 million more Nigerians from January to October of last year. So do you think that these data, that Nigerians really understand the import of this data? If they do understand it, are they feeling it in their lives and in their pocket? And do you think that these are some of the deciding factors for this forthcoming election?
Yes, Nancy, we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. Some of the deciding factors, Nancy, to be truthful, is insecurity. Because in Nigeria, insecurity have now affected microeconomy. It has affected job creation. It has affected, you know, even forex exchange and even direct foreign investments. So first would be insecurity. Second would be about job creation. You know, because of the impact of COVID-19, we have close to 30% unemployment rate. And that's why I agree with you about the president who can take us through recovery. before we even talk about growth. So third also will be about healthcare and education. Because a lot of people pay out of pocket for healthcare because we don't have a conducive atmosphere when you talk about healthcare insurance. And then the state of education in our country. Nancy, I attended public primary school, public secondary, and public university. Right now, I will not take myself to that public primary school again.
Let alone your children.
You understand? So that's what a lot of people will be looking at. And hopefully this would also help, because see, when a lot of people debate on Twitter and talk about the Japa, syndrome, it is because of the state of the country. People are not happy. And people want a president that will tackle insecurity heads on. Because if you tackle insecurity, we're able to deal with the food crisis. Over 60 million people in Nigeria go to bed hungry every day. And we have fertile land, but people cannot graze their land because of insecurity. So if, and these are the determining factors: insecurity, job creation, state of healthcare, state of education, job creation, and of course taxation. Because yesterday we launched the inequality report. Nancy, the inequality gap is widening. The world made over 400 and...
You're talking about the Oxfam one?
Yes, the Oxfam report.
It comes preceding the World Economic Forum.
In Davos, yes.
In fact, 3 Nigerians are richer than
80 million people put together.
Yes, 3 Nigerians are wealthier than...
The question we would ask this candidate is, what are your policies around taxing the rich? And what would this money be used for? And how would this, be tied to, reducing the inequality gap, but truly taking social investment to these people, social security rather.
But okay. Hamzat, you are taking me to places that I know that if we get into, we're not going to end the show today, in terms of inequality, poverty, social investment and all of that, with the furore around this administration's social investment schemes, CCT and all of that. But I want us to talk a little bit about money politics. Bearing in mind that these elections may actually be Nigeria's costliest election.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of perhaps how much has been marked to INEC to do this election. If my memory serves me right, over 300 billion naira. We've also seen the attacks on INEC offices around the country, which is very distasteful and, very uncomfortable at this point. And those that are doing that should better stop it. Because at the end of the day, we cannot deny ourselves the right to vote and to choose the next leader. Where am I going to really? You mentioned earlier the policies of the central bank, especially the redesign of the Naira. How much role do you think that will play, especially for vote buying, or is it vote selling, or whatever you want to call it?
Vote buying and vote selling.
Yes, vote buying and vote selling. How much do you think it will play? Bearing in mind, and I'll bring in data at this point, was it in November, the Director of Currency Operations at the Central Bank of Nigeria did say that, of course, even the CBN governor said over 2.7 trillion naira outside the bank votes. And as of November of 2022, the Director of Currency Operations did tell us that 166 billion naira has been brought back to the banks. I don't know what the data is now, but as of November 2022. How do you think that will play a role in terms of vote buying and vote? I needed to tie all of this in because they do really matter and relate.
When you sit around politicians, they are grumbling. They're
do
not
they?
Oh, they are not happy. They are not happy because
actually true. Because one politician actually asked me a few days earlier. I said, Nancy, where's the money? And I was like, oh, really? You guys should start bringing out the money.
Oh, they can't bring out the money because the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit are monitoring. They're collecting data of how much money is going through the banking and financial institution. It's not only bank that you can go and put in legal tender. Even you have other financial institutions like Microfinance Bank and other people who have license from CBN. So it's already playing a role, and it's going to shape this election and her outcome. And I hope, Nancy, that CBN would not extend their deadline of January 31st.
31.
No, they should
really?
not. Yes. See, Nancy, money politics is what has gotten us to this mess that we are. Because see, when an individual is able to access cash of billions in his or her backyard, what that person can do is that person can fuel any amount of crisis. And that in itself is that you cannot follow this money. So we follow the money.
Follow the money, yeah.
But without evidence, without paperwork or money
Trail.
trail, how do you follow the money? You understand?
Now, do you think that politicians will still go ahead and bribe or ask for buyers or vote buying? Do you think that it will still play a role, that it will still happen, that they will be giving voters 5,000, even 2,000, sometimes they give 1,000 naira, vote for me, or they collect their PVCs or whatever antique they come up with? Do you think that it would happen? Then if you think that it will happen, how will that happen? Do you think that Nigerians now will take the monies and vote their conscience? Or do you think that it would not happen?
So Nancy, it will happen, but on a very low scale. And it's already happening.
Low scale that
Nancy,
people will collect the money and vote their conscience, or
already
low
happening.
scale that politicians will not spend so much money in terms of vote buying and vote selling?
So Nancy, if you follow an average politician who is running for probably state assembly or as a federal lawmaker, as a House of Rep or Senate, because they're doing their town hall meetings and campaign rally. In a lot of these rallies, they still induce voters. They still share wrapper, they share rice, they share maggi, they share salt. You know, they even share kunu, zobo, and water, and even money.
Is that bad?
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay.
Because when you look at our value system, Nancy,
Poverty.
weaponizing poverty, I agree.
Yeah.
But it's already happening. They're already inducing voters. But because of this policy of CBN, they cannot move cash that much from their account, even if it's their money, even if it's in a corporate account. And I'm really happy with what the head of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, Modibo Tukur, what he said. He said they're going to freeze some government accounts before the elections, but they'll also be monitoring government accounts, particularly before and after the elections. And some of these accounts will even be frozen because they have no reason to withdraw money or even make any transfer before the elections. And this is good. It sends a signal that government institutions are watching, even governments themselves, let alone private individuals or corporate entity. So Nancy, it will happen, but on a very lower scale. And this is where EFCC, working together with ICPC and civil society, can truly deploy manpower. So Connected Development is planning to deploy 20,000 election observers. And mind you, election does not only happen on election day. Election starts happening just before the primary elections. We have been observing the election right from the primaries, and we're still observing because, see, Nancy, one of the threats to our election is violence. And usually violence happens just when results are being junked out by INEC. And violence does not just erupt. There are inciting statements by politicians that you could easily tell when you look at the trend that this would trigger their support base to now arm themselves and unleash mayhem to the Nigerian state and people.
Okay. Hamzat, we just have about 1 minute to end this show. Do you think that from the debates we've seen so far, from the engagements we've seen so far, from the presidential candidates, perhaps even, I don't want to be found guilty of saying, you know, because some of these political parties will say, why are you just focusing on the top 3 or top 4? But are you seeing enough engagement? Are you seeing enough selling of the how we're going to govern from the presidential candidates, and not rehashing the problem and statistics to me? I know I'm a statistics person, I'm a data nerd, I will give you all the crisis and everything. But are you seeing the how, the solution from these candidates?
Yes, when you look at their manifesto, some of them talk about solutions that are practical, while some of them are still in the bubble. But I also think that these candidates, and no, Nancy, it's not enough. The engagements are not enough. Some of these candidates, and I think this is also a message to their spokesperson, they're not doing well to their principle. They're doing more harm. Because when I watch debates on TV, when I watch some of their statements on social media, you know, for me, I would not vote for someone who doesn't have, you know, basic values in our society, because we need to rework our values. And then you have spokespeople who are just creating nuisance in public spaces. So let's hear more directly from these people who want to lead us, because they are the leaders, and everything will stop at their decks if we elect them as our president. So let's hear more from them, and let's hear more of the how, so that we can hold them to account when they're elected. Because democracy itself is a process, and it's centered around the people.
Okay. And that also applies to my community also, in terms of asking specific questions on the how, you know, and for these presidential candidates to answer. Thank you very much, Hamzat, for coming.
Nancy, thank you. Hope we can do this before the election
Oh,
and do much more after the election.
and do after the election. Hoping the elections are just like less than 40 days from now. Wow, very critical one. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right, I've been speaking with Hamzat Lawal, who is the founder and the chief executive officer of Connected Development. What are the deciders of this election for you? I would really like to hear from you, really. In fact, you need to go on our YouTube channel. There was a day that I had to dissect the, what do they call it, the manifesto of at least the top 4 or top 5 political parties. Go on YouTube and check out that show. I detailed it in ways that you will understand so that it can help you decide. I will see you all again tomorrow. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji, signing out.